Round one is in the books. Round two kicks off with the Leafs hosting the Panthers tonight. How are we feeling about it? We'll preview the game and the series on today's edition of the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.
You're Locked On Maple Leafs, your daily podcast on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome into the Locked On Leafs podcast, a daily Maple Leafs-centered podcast hosted by myself, Mike DiStefano, and my co-host, Dave Morassutti. Today's episode was brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. You can still get some tickets to Game 1 tonight, Leafs and Panthers. Use the code LOCKEDONNHL and get $20 off those tickets. Are we ready, Dave? Round two is here, and there's no better way to kick things off than with the Maple Leafs and the Panthers for the second time in the last 3 years.
Yeah, it's I don't know. This feeling's different. I don't know. Like the first time that these two, like we looked at this series, we were on that high from that first round victory over Tampa.
Yeah.
Some certain person may have made a video celebrating that celebration after beating Tampa. I look back on that and I'm like, okay, back then we were happy about that. This time around, business approach.
Well, I hope so because, if I recall, after the Tampa series, Toronto got absolutely thumped in the first game against Florida on home ice. And it was unfortunate because, Toronto, remember, that was the year that Boston, was the best team in the league. They had literally set records for the regular season, and Florida upset them. And that was considered to be the easier opponent. There were some people in the streets chanting, "We want Florida. We want Florida." And then in game one, they weren't prepared, and they got socked in the mouth by the Panthers and weren't really able to recover after that. But I do have a little bit more faith that this team, I think that they're ready to finally kind of buy in to what it takes to win the playoffs. We kind of saw a lot of things happen in that first round that suggests that this year is different. Maybe I'm a fool for buying into it a little bit early, but I do believe that they're going to be ready for this battle because that's what it's going to be. I mean, you saw the battle that Tampa and Florida put themselves through in that series, and I guarantee you the Cat's going to try and do the same thing and try and muck it up here against Toronto. Because that's the one thing I guess we could say about the Battle of Ontario. There wasn't nearly as much animosity as we were expecting. I think that ratchets up here in this series for sure.
Oh, I think so. I mean, I remember the last time these two teams. I mean, I just look back to even last year with the Leafs and Bruins, right? Those two teams hated each other. There's one common denominator between last year's Bruins team and this year's Panthers team. One Bradley Marchand, as our boy Biz makes him public enemy number one going into the series. Shout out to Biz for that beautiful video after the Leafs beat Ottawa, but then absolutely providing bulletin board material for the rest of the Panthers, including Matthew Knies.
Yeah. That's pretty much what happened there with Biz, but Biz going Biz, that's for sure. But I mean, realistically, it's up to the guys on the ice to make sure that that bulletin board material doesn't come to fruition, right? But obviously, Brad Marchand brings in a whole new wrinkle to this Florida-Toronto matchup that that wasn't there back in 2023. But there's a lot of new players on Toronto too that wasn't there in 2023. A lot of the people who are having success, right? We're talking about Chris Tanev. We're talking about Oliver Ekman-Larsson, Scott Laughton, who had a terrific first round, who is playing playoff hockey. Matthew Knies got hurt. Remember, Sam Bennett injured Matthew Knies, and he was unable to go for the rest of that series. I expect Kniesy. He didn't forget. That's one thing that I am expecting early on is for Knies to challenge Sam Bennett for what happened in Game 1 in 2023. I think Kniesy remembers that very, very well I think he'll take matters into his own hands pretty early on. That's one prediction I have for this series. Knies and Sam Bennett will be dropping the mitts at some point.
I wouldn't even say dropping the mitts. Matthew Knies ain't backing down if somebody's going to be trying anything. Look at Shane Pinto when he tried to go after Knies in Game 5 because he made
Sit your ass down. Sit your ass down.
He was just
Basically
like,
what he did.
Boy, sit down. I am a man. Don't even people. I think underestimate how big Matthew Knies is. He is
He's 6'4",
huge.
215, 220 pounds, and he's thick. He's thick. He's a thick boy. He's a big dude.
I look at Kachuk. I look at Bennett. Marchand's not really going to do much with Knies. He doesn't go after the big boys.
And it is Kachuk. Kachuk's, he's a pest, but he's not necessarily, he's not Brady. Like, they're different in that sense.
Yeah,
right?
But he that is true. Brady likes to go a little over the top. So I think a more mature, but also I think Matthew Knies understands he has to be a force. And I think he's got to get a little bit of that pestiness inside of himself too, right? Because that's what the series is going to call for.
Well, little spoiler, my best bet for my covers.com article for tomorrow morning for this Leafs and Panthers game. You can make the
right
wager
here, ladies and gentlemen.
You can make the wager on FanDuel. One of our lovely sponsors here in the Locked On Leafs podcast is for a Matthew Knies anytime goal. I like him to score an anytime goal. I'll give you reasons for why in a little bit, because it has to do with something we're going to get into in a minute, right? In about 5 minutes or so later on the podcast, we're talking about, reasons for optimism for why the Leafs can win the series, and then reasons for pessimism. I'll explain in the optimistic viewpoint why I think Matthew Knies has an opportunity to have a big series and why I think that could lead to success for the Maple Leafs and see him punch their ticket into the third round for the first time since 2002. So that's all coming up in a little bit. You're listening to the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.
Ever check your bank account and wonder where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. I like the fact that I could check and see where I'm spending all my money. How much is it going towards Leafs merch? How much is it going towards putting the bet down at FanDuel? Monarch Money helps keep it all in one place. It's convenient. I don't have to go and check all my different accounts. And if you are working with a partner, managing money is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set your goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's Monarch Money, code LOCKEDONNHL for half off your first year.
The Locked On Leafs podcast continues. Mike DiStefano, Dave Morassutti with you as we are each and every weekday, Monday through Friday. The podcast is free and available wherever you get your podcasts from. For all you on-the-go listeners, you could also listen to us on YouTube as well. Just search up Locked On Leafs, hit subscribe, and get daily Maple Leafs content delivered directly to you wherever you get your podcasts. Round 2 begins tonight with the Maple Leafs and the Florida Panthers. It is an 8 p.m. puck drop. 8 p.m., not 7, not 7:30. The Americans wanted an 8 p.m. puck drop, so it's a prime time game for the Maple Leafs and Florida Panthers tonight. And then Wednesday for Game 2, it goes back to your regularly scheduled 7 o'clock puck drop in Toronto.
Well, you also got something happening before that, too, and it's the NHL Draft Lottery.
This is true. Yes, the NHL Draft Lottery, which Toronto obviously does not have anywhere, anything.
We don't care about no draft lottery anymore. We had our moment in 2016.
That's right. That's right. That's a big reason for why the Maple Leafs are where they are, right? That's a big reason for it. And we're talking about reasons for optimism for why we think the Maple Leafs can win this series against the Florida Panthers. And I think the core four coming alive in round one is one of the reasons for optimism. Like this core four has clearly struggled in the postseason. They've known to crumble, but they came through big time in Game 6 and did earlier in the series. The power plays played well, and that's obviously because of the success of the core four. So if those guys can continue to play as well as they did in round one on both ends of the ice, not just offensively, but on both ends of the ice, like that Matthews, Marner, and Knies line was, terrific 200-way hockey. I think that the Leafs have a good chance to down the Panthers in this series. What's another reason for optimism for you, Dave?
The business-like approach, right? Two things about kind of just how the Leafs approach the Senators series. No panic, calm, cool, collective. Craig Berube telling Mark Savard to cool it with the over celebrations on the bench. Like, act like you've been there before, Mark. Act like he has been there before. That's the funny part. But like, it's just like the difference in how the team reacted to the Tampa series.
Yeah.
I don't think they had the right mindset going into the Florida series. This time around, I think Craig Berube has them in the right mindset, right headspace. He knows what this Panthers team is going to do. He knows what this Leafs team needs to do better. And I think some of those things you saw in round one against Ottawa should make you feel more optimistic about how they can handle the Panthers. Because Stolarz said it. They play similar styles, and I think the Panthers bring a little more peskiness to them. They do it in a way that doesn't get them in the box as much as Ottawa did, but I think there are similarities between how those two teams operate. Hard on the forecheck, play physical, try to get turnovers, but I think the Panthers, one thing that they do better is they do get to those high danger areas a lot better. They get those prime scoring chances. They got guys that can pot the puck in a bit more than Ottawa. But I think the Leafs
they limit them too.
Yeah, but the way that the Leafs limited those chances against Ottawa makes me think this team should be capable. And the main reason is I went back. I looked at the blue line for when the Leafs played the Panthers the last time. Do you remember this blue line, Mike? It's not that long ago. You should remember it. Jake McCabe, he's back.
Yeah.
Luke Shen, he gone. TJ Brody, he gone. Timothy Liljegren, sayonara. Justin Hall, we do not have to see Justin Hall against the Florida Panthers, thank God. Mark Giordano, he gone. Morgan Riley, still here. Eric Gustafson played one game. He's gone, obviously. Only two defensemen remain from that last series. It's a whole new blue line. This ain't a blue line that's going to be petrified of the physical play. Like, TJ Brody him and Jake McCabe had a rough time against Florida. Chris Tanev, I have a lot more faith he ain't going to be as worried about going up against this Panthers team. He has been through this dance a few times before.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. You absolutely have a lot more comfort with this blue line than you did the one prior. Like you just mentioned the names that were on that blue. Like this is an immense upgrade. Tanev, OEL, Benoit over Liljegren. What was shades of TJ Brody. And who's the other player you mentioned? Eric Gustafson and Luke Shen. Shen gave you some pretty good minutes, but
he was one of the few that was actually a plus player in that series.
Tanev's going to obviously give you far, far better minutes, and Brandon Carlo's been terrific as well. So you've upgraded from Carlo, Tanev, OEL, and Benoit. Far superior upgrades across the board on the blue line than the last time these two teams played. And if I recall, 3 of the 5 games were decided by 1 goal, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe 4 of the 5 games were decided by 1 goal. And that's something that this season Toronto's gotten a lot more comfortable with. And that's another reason for optimism. Their record in 1-goal games this year, Dave, far better than what it's been in the past. Under Craig Berube, Toronto went 22-4-4 in 1-goal games. 22-4-4 in 1-goal games. That's a very high success rate. In fact, that's the best points percentage in the NHL in 1-goal games in throughout the regular season. So there's another reason to be optimistic. Like, this isn't a team that's pissed away points and thrown away leads. When they get a lead, they hold a lead. And it's not that they're trying to, extend it a whole lot, but they're okay with locking it down and just kind of coasting into a 1-goal lead. And they're good with, being able to come back when need be and win these games, right? So that's another reason for optimism right there. The comfort in the low scoring 1-goal games, and that's exactly what I'm anticipating here in another Leafs Panthers matchup, because that's exactly what we saw a couple of years ago. I think they doubled down; it'll be very similar.
Yeah, and I look back at that series, especially once they made the goaltending change. Well, obviously Samsonov got hurt, but when Justin Woll came in, or sorry, Joseph Woll. I don't know why I say Justin.
Joseph Woll.
Justin.
You're thinking about Justin Hall.
I am.
Your boy. Your boy.
My boy. Yeah, he's haunting my brain and nightmares forever. When Joseph Woll came in, it changed the series, right? Yeah. Those first two games, Samsonov wasn't as steady, right? Joseph Woll came in, and the Panthers was like, oh, they got a more competent goaltender than that now. And it turned the series. Like, that gave me more belief that maybe the Leafs could have tried to engineer a comeback, but obviously being down 3-0 didn't really help in that regard, which is why I have the faith that with Anthony Stolarz, we ain't going to see what happened against the Panthers last time. You're going to have a more calm, collective goaltender, a guy who knows this team very, very well. And
what? Go ahead.
He said, it's funny. Matthew Knies said, I couldn't even beat this guy in practice. He's already in the minds of these guys. Now, there may be a bit
We're talking about practice. Practice, Dave? Practice?
Goalies love practice, man. I just think it's such a game changer with Anthony Stolarz. Him and Sergei Bobrovsky, I had to read this twice to make sure I wasn't going crazy. Him and Stolarz and Bobrovsky in round one have identical stats. Yeah. Same save percentage, same goals against average.
Yeah.
So that's maybe one reason for optimism, is that maybe the Leafs won't get. They may have the goaltending matchup. While many will probably still take Bobrovsky over Stolarz, I don't think it's going to be that much of a. I think it doesn't tilt as much in Florida's favor as it did when the series started, and it was Samsonov versus Bobrovsky.
Yeah, I'll get to Bobrovsky in a minute when we're going to do our reasons for pessimism, because if you recall, that guy was an absolute beast last time they saw each other in the playoffs. So we'll get to that in a minute, but I'm with you. I am curious, though, what percentage odds would you say we see Joseph Woll at some point in this series?
I'll go 25. The only reason I'll go
25. I'm higher than that. I'm like 48%. Like, yeah, 48%. So I'm not quite there where I'm like, 50%, but 48%. I think there's a good chance we see Joseph Woll in this series at some point.
The only reason I'm not as certain is because Craig Berube has been very, very careful to say, I want to make he keeps the focus on the guy who's in the net. But Joseph Woll does have that experience against Florida. Joseph Woll was providing that, like, I can steal you games that Stolarz has too. But if Stolarz doesn't do it early, then they got no reason why they can't go to the next guy. I can see that. And I think that question will be brought up if Stolarz falters in one of the two games. Like, he did play very well the last time the Leafs played the Panthers, but before that, it was a bit of a struggle against his former team.
Yeah. And Woll played the last game. So they played 2 games in March. Stolarz played, got the win, 29 save victory. And then Woll played like 3 days later. And the Panthers ended up winning that game. The way that the schedule sets up so far, so game 1's tonight, Monday, and then Wednesday's game 2, then Friday, then Sunday for 3 and 4. And then there is a 2-day break before game 5, if necessary. And then again, Friday for game 6, Sunday for game 7. So there's only one break where you get that extra rest day between game 4 and game 5. So that's the only thing where it's like, this guy's not used to playing that much hockey. And I'm just going to continue to bring that up just because it is a talking point. Now, whether or not it happens, maybe he just continues to roll and he doesn't show any rust and he doesn't really get tired. And, they utilize practices to take him off the ice and rest him up a little bit. Maybe that's the way that they get through this. But it is something that I am definitely keeping an eye on. But
you can't.
Either way,
you
feel
definitely
strong
can't
about
it.
No, but either way, you feel good about both goaltenders, whoever ends up in the crease. Two other things that give me reasons for optimism. One, especially tonight, no Aaron Ekblad in this game, and that's kind of big, right? No Aaron Ekblad. When the Panthers were without Ekblad this year, they were 10-14-2 without Ekblad. 10-14-2, so it's sub 500 team, a non-playoff team when Aaron Ekblad was not in the lineup. And you saw kind of how poor they played at the end of the year when he was serving that 20-game PED suspension. So he's still, he got suspended for the hit. Was it Hagel? Did you get the hit?
Yeah, Hagel.
Yeah, the Hagel hit. He still has one game that he has to sit out, so he will not be in for game number 1. So I think that's a benefit the Maple Leafs need to capitalize on Ekblad not being in the lineup for night 1. And the other thing, home ice advantage, Dave. It's right there. Like it's hiding in plain sight how big of an advantage this can be for the Maple Leafs. And it's the Leafs have been perfectly fine on home ice this year, but you look at the Panthers' record on the road, 20-19-2 on the road. So literally a sub 500 team on the road this year. That's not great. That's not great, Dave. And if they come out, no Ekblad, they already are a sub 500 team on the road. They don't travel very well. If they lose game 1, that gives Toronto, was it 68% of game 1 winners end up winning the series? So Toronto can get on top of them and take advantage of no Ekblad, take advantage of having home ice, take advantage of those line matchups. Like I like Craig Berube in this matchup. I think he's a far better coach when it comes to line matching against Paul Maurice. I like all these factors, and I think that gives them a shot to win game 1. And when you win game 1, it gives you a 68% chance to win the entire series. So those are my reasons for optimism. You got one more left in the chamber, or you want to start tipping over onto the negative
let's
Nancy
tip over
side?
to the other side. We can't be. We gotta make sure that the folks here understand why we can't get all too rosy right just yet on this Leafs team.
Oh, one other one actually, real quick, because I got to build them. I got to cut them down first because we're about to build them up. But Bobrovsky in the opening round, high danger save percentage, just 800, just an 800 high danger save percentage, and his medium danger save percentage was also in the mid 8s. So medium to high danger shots had made their way through Bobrovsky in that Tampa series. He wasn't tested a lot, but when he was not as sharp as he typically is. So that's one of the things. The Leafs do get those chances. Matthew Knies is currently 4th in the NHL in high danger shots through the postseason. That's why he's my best bet to score a goal tonight. Austin Matthews right behind him with 9 high danger shots throughout the first round. So they may not muster up a lot of chances, but they can convert on the few. And with Bob's not being as sharp, we'll see if it continues. But that is another reason for optimism. But if he does what he did 2 years ago, that, my friend, is a reason for pessimism. And we'll continue with that list on the other side. I'm Mike DiStefano with David Morassutti. You're listening to the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. The Stanley Cup playoffs are here, and if you've never been to a live NHL playoff game, it's unlike anything else. The intensity, the speed, the energy in the building, it's next level. And thanks to Game Time, getting in the door is easier and more affordable than ever. Game Time is the fastest way to grab playoff tickets, even for those must-see matchups. Prices actually drop the closer it gets to puck drop. With last-minute deals, you can save up to 60%. Their all-in pricing shows the total cost up front with no surprise fees at checkout. The app even allows you to see a panoramic view of your seats, so you know exactly what you're getting before you buy it. And with the Game Time ticket coverage, I know I'm protected, whether it's cancellation protection, job loss insurance, or their 24-hour guarantee. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's code Locked On NHL for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Today's episode is also brought to you by Upwork. Scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time. With Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, design, and more, experts ready to help take your business to the next level. Upwork gives business flexibility by connecting them with top freelance talent across multiple industries, including IT, AI, web development, and marketing. Whether you need extra hands for a project or a long-term partner, Upwork makes hiring simple and affordable. Finding the right talent. If you need help with a marketing campaign, Upwork can connect you with a freelance expert who delivers incredible results, and it's cost-effective growth. Instead of hiring full-time, Upwork helps you find affordable top-tier freelancers to scale your business efficiently. Visit Upwork.com right now and post your job for free. That's Upwork.com. That's Upwork.com to connect with top talent and grow your business today. Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. Mike DiStefano, Dave Morassutti with you on game day, game one, Leafs and Panthers starting off round two with a bang. How about the weekend games? Both those game sevens from Saturday and Sunday in the Western Conference. You had the Mikko Rantanen show on Saturday. That was outstanding. 4 points in the third period, a hat trick to complete the revenge tour to eliminate the Colorado Avalanche. It was theater, absolute theater. Awesome. And then double overtime in Jets Blues. And Adam Lowry, the captain for Winnipeg, gets a stick on a puck, and it redirects itself up over Jordan Binnington, and the Winnipeg Jets moving on to round two to face those Dallas Stars. So we now have 3 Canadian teams remaining in the postseason. So sayonara Ottawa, sayonara Montreal. The Leafs, the only Canadian team to make it out of the first round in the Eastern Conference, and both the Jets and Edmonton Oilers in the second round as well in the Western bracket. But yeah, Leafs, Panthers tonight, game one, 8 p.m. puck drop. Don't forget, 8 o'clock puck drop, not 7 p.m. We went through our reasons for optimism, why we feel good going into this series. But obviously, we are Leaf fans, and this is a Leaf show, and we can't quite buy into this team because it still is the postseason. And Dave, this team hasn't made it out of round two since 2002. So it's been quite a long time, 23 years to be exact, since this team has won 2 rounds in one singular playoffs. Why do you think that? What are some of your reasons for pessimism as to why there's a shot that this isn't the year that streak ends?
Well, the Leafs got to show that maybe that their special teams isn't going to be a reason why they lose the series, because it started off so well and it almost cost them at the end, right? You look at the 2, especially game 5 where the power play just wasn't very good. The Panthers are not a team that they've had a lot of success with on the special teams. I look back at that series in 2023. We'll start with the Panthers penalty kill. They allowed 2 goals on 11 opportunities. The Leafs power play fired at 18.2%. You ain't winning many series with an 18.2% power play. Even worse, the Leafs penalty kill. The Leafs allowed 3 goals on 9 opportunities, a 66 36.7% kill rate. That's not good, and that's not going to fly in a series. Now, Craig Berube obviously knows that. He's going to do his best to try to make the team understand that. But here's the problem. The team has to be the one to do it. And I think especially it's not the penalty kill so much I'm concerned about, because the penalty kill was actually pretty good and the power play was good. But we know that the Panthers is just going to make it that much harder, especially for this Leafs power play. If they decide to get stagnant, if they decide to not push with that pace that they did early on in the series against Ottawa, the Panthers are going to laugh. They're going to say, you're making this easy for us. And the Leafs cannot make it easy for that Panthers penalty kill.
No, they cannot. They need to make sure that they're working hard and getting as many opportunities as possible. That's what they have to do, and more so what they did in the first 3 games of the series against Ottawa, not the next 3. That's kind of what they got to get to, and it's going to be tough because Florida. I mean, you look at their penalty kill in the series against Tampa Bay, 88%. Like that's a good penalty kill, and that's a team that's been able to kill penalties really all year, right? So that's kind of where you're looking at this Florida team, and you're like, man, we got to make sure that we convert at 5-on-5, because I don't know how many opportunities there's going to be to score on the power play. So I think the 5-on-5 play is going to be very important for Toronto in this series. The one thing that kind of worries me a little bit. We saw the Maple Leafs at times kind of struggle with the Senators' forecheck. And you thought the Sens could forecheck relentlessly? Holy moly, the Panthers are going to kick it up another notch. And if you could, at sometimes struggle with the Senators, and the Leafs at times were just unable to get the puck out because of the forecheck, and they just continued to turn the puck over, that's going to happen against Florida way more. Like, Florida is a much harder team and a bigger team and a more veteran team and a stronger team. So that's one thing that worries me, right? Toronto struggled to clear the zone at times against the Sens and that relentless forecheck. Florida is going to be way more difficult to play against in that perspective. And that is one thing that does kind of concern me.
Yeah, I mean, the Panthers just play that heavy hockey, right? And you look at the series against Tampa, that was nasty. That was a nasty series. Sure, Tampa was also guilty of being overzealous, like Brandon Hagel on Barkov there. The Panthers responded pretty meanly, right? It's a series. It's just one of those where you don't want the Panthers to know they have the physical edge, because we know they do. They got more. The Leafs have guys that are willing to be physical, but not to the level that the Panthers are going to do it. And it's not so much the physicality, it's the speed. Because the Leafs, at times, they look slow against Ottawa. And the Panthers, they win puck battles, not just because they're physical, but because they got the speed to do it as well.
Yep.
So, they're gonna have to really watch out for that forecheck. They're gonna have to find ways to move that puck a lot quicker than they did, not hold it for that extra second, because it's gonna, the more that the Leafs spend in their own zone, the more that Florida can hem them in, the tougher it's going to be.
Yeah, got to get it out as quick as possible. Have to. What's another reason for pessimism for you, Dave?
Well, you kind of brought it up. You've been teasing this the whole time, and it was a big thing I wanted to bring up too, was Sergei Bobrovsky. I hate that guy. I've hated him for a while. In that series against him in 2023, I really hated him. Like,
I got the stats here. You want to hear it?
Go for it.
Game 1, 944 save percentage. Game 2, 946 save percentage. Game 3, 917 save percentage. Game 4, 920 save percentage. Game 5, 962 save percentage. He stopped 50 of 52 shots to eliminate the Maple Leafs that night. He had a 943 save percentage through the entire series with a 189 goals against average. The Leafs failed to score more than 2 goals on Bobrovsky in that entire 5-game series. If he somehow enters that mode again, the Leafs are in big, big trouble.
Huge
Because,
trouble.
yeah, you got to score more than 2 goals to win games in the playoffs. Just have to.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that's always going to worry me is Bobrovsky has it in him to go hero mode. Officer Bob, if he somehow channels 2023 Bobrovsky, oh boy, Leafs could be in trouble.
Oh, I just look back at that game 5 between the Panthers and the Lightning. There was a moment in that game where I thought the Lightning were going to put the game, give themselves a good chance to extend that series. I can't remember who it was that Bobrovsky absolutely robbed. And I'm just like, oh, yeah, Tampa's in trouble. They got this Bobrovsky right now. The guy that he finds a way. It's incredible. I'm hoping that Anthony Stolarz acts like a bit of a mentor with these Leafs forwards and tells them, this is what Bob does very well. Find a way to exploit it. Get a little bit of a scouting report on him. So that you're gonna have to find a way to make it uncomfortable for Bobrovsky. This is where a guy like Matthew Knies, get in that guy's kitchen, get in his grill. The Panthers, you might have to take some punishment from the Panthers D, who are not going to like it if you're in Bobrovsky's office. You got to park your butt there and say, move me. Pull Ridley Gregg without the peskiness, let's say. Right?
Old school Sean Avery, maybe?
Oh, I'll never forget that. Yeah. Where's Martin Brodeur when you need him? You got to find. You have to make it hard on Bobrovsky. He played incredible, but that year he looked average, even worse than average against Vegas. You have to make it hard on the goaltender, and sometimes the Leafs have a tendency to make it easy on the goaltender.
Yeah, they definitely got to find a way to take his eyes away. Ultimately, take his eyes away. They were dead last in rebound shots in the first period. They got to make sure they get those second, third opportunities because that's how you score in the playoffs, right? You score those dirty, greasy goals in tight. And guys like Tavares, guys like Knies, guys like Lawton and Lorentz, who are expected to be in around the net. Those are the dudes who I think are going to come up big in a series like this, and they're going to have to if the Leafs want to win. And finally, the reason and the line that kind of worries me is obviously what's probably the best shutdown line in hockey, right? Barkov and Reinhart on one line, 2 Selke candidates on the same line, shutting down your opposition. They're going to obviously get the Matthews, Marner, Knies assignment, and we'll see who comes out on top. But if they completely take away those 3 players, there's going to be a lot of pressure on Willie and John and the bottom 6 to try and punch in a goal or 2 here, for the blue line to try and score a goal or 2 here. So that is reasons for concern. That line has the ability to completely shut down the Maple Leafs big boys, and if that happens, again, not good things probably awaiting for you if that's the case.
No, and look, there were ways for Kucherov, Gensel to find some success against Florida, but it wasn't enough.
I don't think Kucherov scored a single goal in the series, if I'm not mistaken.
He didn't, but Gensel was pretty good against Tampa. But you're gonna have a very that top 6 is going to be a pain in the rear to play against. But you got to find a way. You have to find a way to win those matchups, especially at home. This is where you bring up the home aspect of it. You can dictate those matchups a bit more. Now, if it's not Barkov and Reinhart, then they're going to try to just throw Sam Bennett and Matthew Tkachuk and Brad Marchand at you. It's not fair. I get it, but you got to find ways to win for your top guys to win minutes, because third line, I guess it's going to be the Holmberg, Domi, Pacioretty show again. They gotta find a way to be consistent. They had once Pacioretty settled in and Domi, they found some chemistry. It worked out better, but you have to find a way to win your top 6 minutes, because your bottom 6, you're kind of hoping is a push. Those two even up. You got your top 6 that gotta lift you. You got to be the ones to prevail in this series.
Yeah, absolutely. So those are the reasons for pessimism. So we feel good for many reasons, but there's always that seed of doubt in the back of Leafs fans' minds. So that's always going to be there, and it's up to the Maple Leafs to try and change our minds. And they can do that by going out and putting together a couple solid performances and eliminate the Florida Panthers and keep this train rolling into round 3. It's the only way to change our minds about whether or not this team's legit, this team can win it all. Is this year different? Got to win round 2 in order for all that to be true. All right, Dave, that'll do it for us here today on the podcast. Thank you all for listening and support. Oh, actually, congratulations to Mitch Marner. Before we take off,
yes.
Mitch Marner did have a baby. So I'm expecting a new dad bump.
New dad bump. Channel your inner Fred VanVleet, Mitch.
Yeah.
Your inner Fred VanVleet. Do it.
Yeah.
Do it.
New dad bump coming here in game 1, 2, and maybe game 3, 4. He may get tired. But game 1, 2, pure adrenaline, all Marner, all day. That's what I want to see. The new
Doesn't
dad
need the Mountain
bump.
Dew. He's his own Mountain Dew this time.
That's right. All right, that'll do it for us here today on the podcast. And thank you all for listening and supporting this show. You can subscribe to the Locked On Leafs podcast on all platforms and receive daily Leafs content. Follow myself on Twitter at Mickey_Canuck. Follow Dave at D_Morassutti, and follow the show as well at Locked On Leafs. We'll be back with another episode for you guys tomorrow. But until then, keep it locked right here on Locked On Leafs.